I will say the criticism, Joel, of Caleb at USC from the NFL people I talked to was, his accuracy is a little bit all over the map because his feet are all over the map. As somebody that played the position in college, your interpretation of some of his stuff was like layups and he missed it badly. What did you see?
Yeah, I do think it's a footwork problem. And one of the things at USC was rarely was the ball out on time. And when you get to the NFL level, everything comes down to timing and spacing. Or is the ball on target and on time? And he can struggle with that because he has this belief in himself that he's going to make the play with his athleticism, which does show up, by the way, still. He still ran for a touchdown and can elude the rush and get himself in a position to go and make a play. But Colin, the more concerning part is that when he is in the pocket and he does have time, the constant missing high or being just a little bit late, that has to improve. Now, I do think it's unfair to grade him with a final evaluation in his very first opportunity to play in a Ben Johnson offense. I think you would agree with me on that. I don't know what it's going to look like during the course of the year. I would agree with you. I think it's going to be the best version of whatever he can be, but it's pretty clear to me that he's got to become a much better quarterback when it relates to the timing and accuracy with which he plays in the pocket. Because at that level, your athleticism has to be in second position. Has to be. All right, even Mahomes, he controls the game first from the pocket, and then he wows us with his athleticism outside. That's what all the great athletic quarterbacks have always been able to do, is control the game from the pocket first.
As long as we're on that game, you did a bunch of J.J. McCarthy games. And at the college level, he wasn't asked to carry a team. He had leads. He had the best coach. So my concern was historically, when you come from a more comfortable position in college, it's harder because that's not the NFL. It is practice is hard. He was almost terrified in the first three quarters. And then he hit a big Justin Jefferson completion in the fourth quarter. And it kind of changed his confidence. And I said, you know what I saw? I saw Baker Mayfield. Baker always played better. He was like a streaky shooter in basketball. If Baker hit a big play, I was like, okay, Baker's chest came out. Baker's velocity went out. And I said, God, is J.J. McCarthy a little bit of a Baker comp?
Yeah.
Your take on just that opinion.
Yeah, I like it. I really like it. They both share the uncommon self-belief that I think all great players have to have. Maybe if others don't even share it that are around them. The other part of it is that they have this competitive streak where it's like they just need a scoreboard and a score. And it doesn't matter what the competition is, right? It could be pickleball. It could be whatever. This happens to be a Monday Night Football game. And it's like they rise to the occasion in those moments. And that's certainly what JJ was able to do in college. And that's what we saw him do on Monday night. Here's one thing that I would just point to that I think if I'm Kevin O'Connell, I would go back and take a look at this. Michigan generally, and I used to talk to Sharon Moore about this when he was the play caller for Michigan as JJ was maturing and becoming the quarterback that we now see. They would get him a completion early that was almost like a shooter going to the foul line early in the game. Colin, it was just seeing the ball go through the hoop one time, getting that one completion where the ball comes off of your hand and you're like, okay, I've got the timing, I can see it, I've got the spacing. And then once that happens, because you nailed it, once he had that completion to Jefferson, I believe it was on the left side, a little play action pass. He's in rhythm, he hits it, and he was a totally different player after that. If you go back to those Michigan games, almost every single opening series within the first 3 snaps of the entire game, it wasn't a big shot down the field. It was actually an easy completion, like a free throw, that started to get JJ in rhythm. I think if Minnesota started to utilize that type of strategy rather than just run the football like they did early in that game, they would get him in a rhythm much sooner.
So, listen, when you have to replace a legend, coaching is so vital in college football. Not that it doesn't matter in pro football, but the pro football starts with the quarterback, and often the GM is really important, like Philly Howie Roseman. But in college, the coach recruits the players. He's the coach and the GM. And replacing Jim Harbaugh is no easy task. I thought Bryce Underwood, I think he's really good. Like, I think he's really looks different. But I got to tell you, when I watch Michigan the first couple of weeks, I don't see it. I feel like they're not quite now. Give Oklahoma credit. Mateer, they found their quarterback. I think they've got a lot of juniors, seniors on defense. Oklahoma, this is a good Oklahoma team. We thought they would win. Michigan doesn't quite feel the same, Joel. To me, you know them better than I do. It doesn't quite feel the same. Perimeter-wise, nobody scares you on that offense.
So I think both things can be true. And you touched on this, so I'll give you credit on this, is that, and Oklahoma fans, you got to give the Sooners credit. And it's like, okay, both can be true. I think that Michigan can be struggling with their identity on one hand, and on the other hand, Oklahoma played great. I think both of those things can equally be true. Now, if you just were to focus on the identity piece from the Michigan perspective, here's what I see. I see a new offensive coordinator in Chip Lindsey that has majored in more of a spread, albeit even finesse style attack in his career as a college football coach. And now he comes in, and yet what Sharon Moore really wants to retain from the Jim Harbaugh days is this physical mindset and philosophy that they're going to run the football. And the two have not gelled.
They haven't.
They have not gelled. Now, can it happen? Well, maybe is the question, but we haven't seen it yet. And I thought that the game plan was not very good from Michigan, way too much side to side. And then here's a little like inside football. And I know we don't have film to show this, but I should have given it to you guys. Way too many condensed sets from the offense for Michigan. So when you condense your formation, what does the defense do? It condenses. And immediately, the safeties are going to be closer to the line of scrimmage. The corners are going to be closer. So the support players and all the players that you cannot account for in the run blocking scheme are closer to the line of scrimmage. So it becomes so much more difficult to just run the football straight ahead when you're out of a condensed set.
Yep.
Now, what Michigan did do well is they added extra linemen at time, and they would bring on a 6th and 7th extra offensive lineman. Now, that's better than just condensing your skill position players down. And the reason is because you're adding extra gaps. And then that's when they finally broke off that long run coming out of halftime, is that they had a extra offensive lineman, and now Oklahoma didn't adjust, and there was a gap free, and they bust a long run. So they're going to learn from that. Here's what I would encourage Michigan to do, as if I'm a coach. Condense the set in order to throw the football. That way you bring the defense closer to the line of scrimmage. Now take your shots and try to run right past them. And then to run the football, make the look and the structure of the defense more clear by spreading out. So if Chip Lindsey wants to actually spread out a little bit and then run power football with his 5 offensive linemen up front, I think that would help them. It would define the look for the quarterback. It would help those offensive linemen up front, but they certainly have an identity issue. And I just want to say again, that doesn't mean Oklahoma didn't play great. Oklahoma played great, and I'm a believer in Oklahoma moving forward.
So am I. Yeah, great quarterback, a coach that's been in the sport a lot, and juniors and seniors all over the defense. Oklahoma's good. It's a good team. Okay, so I always believe what I'm about to say to be true is that people out east are built different than people out west. Out west, the weather's better. We don't get a lot of snow. We don't get a lot of hail. Out east, I remember when I was a kid, Big East basketball was not only better than the Pac-12, it was so much more intimidating and physical. Because there is, and by the way, when Jay Wright was building Villanova, he would go to the DMV, he'd get tough kids, their dad were cops. It is, let's be honest, out east, you eat a bagel with cream cheese. Out west, they scoop out the carbs in the bagel. I'm sorry, it's the green plate theory. And so I watched USC.
By the way, I'm sitting here with like a Southern California tan thinking to myself, yes, I'm soft, Colin. It gets below 55 degrees, and I'm like, I can't handle this anymore. So what you're saying is absolutely true at the detriment of my own personality.
So one of my knocks on USC has always been Pete Carroll understood this. So practices with Pete Carroll were intense, like uncomfortable. The program has been soft. I watched, it doesn't mean they lack skill under Lane or Sark, so I watched USC this past weekend. I went to the game. They're fast, they're clever, there's misdirection, they're twitchy. It is total Lincoln Riley. You can't guess the play. All sorts of movement. And I walked out of the stadium and a USC fan came up. He said, "What do you think?" I said, "Yeah, I've seen that before." You can't go on the road in crappy weather in the Big Ten and win because you're out clevering them.
See, I think I would disagree with you, though. Not in your sense that you can't just finesse teams to death, but I apologize for you not finishing your point, but I think I think USC is actually more in the right blueprint of what they need to do to win. Let me explain this to you, okay? Because I think that you'll like this a lot, Colin, and then take this to heart. If you look at the way that Lincoln Riley won at Oklahoma, it was a very specific blueprint. Okay, so if you take his head coaching years at Oklahoma and you take that as a chunk and you take all of college football, Oklahoma was #1 in the country in average yards per rush. You wouldn't think that, would you? But they were. And that was always the issue at USC, is that they never ran the ball as effectively as what Lincoln did when he was at Oklahoma. That's what allowed Baker to be Baker and Kyler to be Kyler and Jalen Hurts and so on and so forth. And now, guess where USC sits after 2 games? #1 in the country in rush yards per attempt. Now, the brilliance of Riley is that he married that with a passing game that was also elite at Oklahoma. In fact, Baker Mayfield finished 3rd in the country throwing the football his last year and en route to a Heisman championship or Heisman trophy. Guess where Mayava is right now? 3rd in the country. So I would actually argue that this is the blueprint. This is the Riley blueprint for how you win. They ran it better Caleb's first year than they did his second year, and then they leaned too heavily on the pass. If they can run the football well, this Wayman Jordan guy can run it. He's the JUCO National Player of the Year. He comes in. He's been really good at running back. I'm actually bullish on USC. I think it's one of the more underrated teams in the country. They lost close games a year ago, and I think they're going to surprise some people over the next few weeks.
By the way, Sark got a little edgy. So we were saying it this week. J-Mac disagreed with me, but football is a sport where guys wince all the time. Nobody plays clean. College football, high school football. As I was throwing darts all over this field in high school football, I would wince occasionally because of the level of violence of football, right? You remember those days. So my point is, Arch Manning during the game for Texas winced. And one of the reporters asked Sark, he looked uncomfortable. And if I was Sark, instead of getting defensive, I would have said, it's football. Like, my players are uncomfortable all the time. But I did feel like the press conference with Sark, it got a little edgy and didn't need to. And I'm asking you, do you feel the pressure at Texas this year? I do. Watching Sark, I feel that Sark feel the donors. Texas is a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
And I had a coach tell me this one time. He said, the hardest place to play is with an impulsive owner in the NFL. The second hardest place is Texas. Mac Brown had to massage those donors every day. What do you make of Sark, the pressure, and Arch?
I think that what you saw there was Sark being protective. I think that what you see is a culmination of an offseason of pressure and expectation being heaped on a guy that hadn't really been a full-time starter yet, and his coach is trying to defend him. I think he got defensive, and he's trying to defend his player and this kid who is still a kid and is still young in his career and trying to develop. Your point about wincing, I agree with. Now, I think what makes it more worrisome is that he's wincing while not throwing the football very accurately. And there's speculation of why is his arm angled down and what's going on? Is he hurt? There's wild speculation. And I think that Sark sees that. And to your point about pressure cooker, it's certainly a pressurized a place to coach and more specifically play. I would make the argument that the 2 hardest positions to play in college football are quarterback at Texas and quarterback at Ohio State. And Arch is in that. And then you throw his last name and the expectations.
Yeah.
And I think you see the defensiveness of a coach trying to defend a quarterback that is not reaching the expectations that have been shoveled on him by the outside, whether he liked it or not. And whether you like the answer or not, I like it if I'm Arch. And I think that's the point. The point wasn't for the reporter. It wasn't for anyone else other than Arch. It was basically like saying, hey, kid, I got your back no matter what, and we're going to do this together. And so for that purpose, I actually liked it as a former quarterback. If my coach would have said something like that and take the head off of a reporter, and I would be like, all right, now I've got a guy in the foxhole with me. And so from Arch's perspective, I'm sure he appreciated it.
That's a good answer there, Klatt.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Now, you did a pretty good
bringing
job.
the heat. I'm bringing the heat. How are you doing?
Oh, good. I'm looking at your top 10. I don't have any problems with it.
No, I mean,
hey,
you shouldn't.
Let's
the
give a
team
little
that
love.
I think is really good?
Who?
Oregon.
Well, they're always good.
Yeah, I know, but like they're different this year. So I'm preparing for the Northwestern game this week, Oregon at Northwestern, and I'm watching all their film. And you know what stood out to me? I'm like, that's it. That's what it's supposed to look like. I know that they're always good and they're always fast and they're a good team. This is a team that's constructed that could be a great team. I think Dante Moore is a step up from Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel. Both draft picks, both really good players. I think that their defense is a step up in the way that it's constructed. They've got massive players on the interior of their defensive line and really ferocious players on the edge. Good hybrid players in the back two levels. When I turn on Oregon, I see the best team in the country. And I'm just saying right now that looks like a team that could win it all this year.
You know, it is remarkable, and maybe I say this pridefully because I worked in the state of Oregon. It is unbelievable that a state that has maybe 3 elite high school football players a year, I mean, that's it. It's tucked up in the corner. That, they don't have a 100,000 seat stadium. They have a very, very wealthy donor who's all into their track team, their basketball. It's not just football, but it is remarkable in this country. Generally, the great programs, Georgia or a Texas or a USC or Ohio State, you come from these rich recruiting grounds. I always think that about Oregon. It is unbelievable. If I'd have said, 30 years ago, you're not going to believe this. Oregon may be the 3rd best program in the country. When I feel the same way. Are you going to Autzen at all this year? Do you have an Autzen game?
I don't know if we'll go to Autzen, but I think that we'll have them on the road. Remember, with the noon time slot, it's tough to get them to kick at 9, i.e. they don't do it. So
no, and they don't need to. Oregon football is something else.
I agree with you, though. I agree with you. And by the way, they've overcome that lack of natural recruiting base by creating a brand and an attractiveness that everyone around the country wants to be a part of. And I think Dan Lanning is a big part of that. And obviously the way that they've branded themselves over the last couple of decades, I believe that of the teams that haven't won a national championship and you wouldn't consider to be historical blue bloods, they're
Oregon's
clearly
number
the
one.
next team. They're clearly the next team in line to potentially win something.
If you told me the last 10 years, and I'm counting everything, marketing, wins, bowl games, coaching, decision-making, talent, if you said best programs in the country, and again, a lot of it's just Saban, you'd go Alabama, Ohio State, and current momentum matters too. Alabama, Ohio State, they're in an argument for 3rd because Clemson's not
Georgia,
and then
Clemson maybe Michigan with their national championship, and then Oregon is right in there.
But Clemson doesn't have the NIL or the current trajectory, and so I would put Oregon ahead of Clemson simply because of Phil Knight, the trajectory, the recruiting prowess. Oregon recruits better than Clemson on those rival ratings every year. But it's amazing when you look at the top 5 programs. Oregon has to be in that. Yeah. They're in that. Absolutely.
I think that they're really good. They are better than what they have been. They were the number 1 team in the country and undefeated, had beaten Ohio State, beaten Penn State last year, and they ran into Jeremiah Smith and the Death Star Supernova in the Rose Bowl, right? That's a bad break for them. This is a better version. I'm just telling you, they're really good.
Joel Klatt, good seeing you, buddy.
You as well. Have a great day, dude.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.